Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering the woke NFL meltdown as they still can't find enough diverse coaches. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. From the New York Times, in the NFL and at big companies, diversity playbooks face hurdles. The league's successes and struggles are playing out in hundreds of companies that have emulated its Rooney Rule in trying to hire more people from underrepresented groups. From Forbes, NFL team valuations. So these are teams that have values of some $5 billion and more, and they're trying to figure out how they can get people of a certain skin color to be the coach. I get it that it doesn't seem fair that not everyone can look a certain way if they're the coach of a team. However, just like with the players, don't you need to hire people based on merit? If you don't hire people based on merit to literally run a $5 billion organization, what results do you think you're going to get? So if you own the team or if you own a piece of the team, are you going to hire people that you think can deliver and can manage these personalities and can manage the talent and get great financial results? Or are you going to be ridiculously seeking people who have a certain skin color? I always say merit first. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what your gender is. And I don't care who you sleep with. From the New York Times, the end of the National Football League's regular season on Sunday triggered the start of two annual events, the playoffs and the period when a wave of teams fire head coaches and general managers and start frenzied searches for their replacements. The league has little control over the outcomes of the games, but over the past 20 years, the NFL has tried and often failed to change the composition of the highest ranks in football-related jobs at every club. For a league in which roughly 70% of NFL players are people of color, it has been a source of embarrassment that the vast majority of coaches and executives have historically been white. Why in the name of God would it be an embarrassment what the coaches look like? There should only be an embarrassment based on what their results are. No one seems to be complaining about the skin color or the gender of the players, so there should be no issue with the coaches. To diversity teams' leadership ranks, the NFL has largely relied on the Rooney Rule, named for a Pittsburgh Steelers owner and adopted in 2008, which required every team to interview at least one person of color when hiring a head coach or general manager. With the team having a valuation of $5 billion or more, you really can't afford this nonsensical, non-merit-based hiring. It doesn't matter what the skin color is of the person you're hiring. Imagine the level of responsibility that the coach has to deliver results. Why would you even consider putting someone in a position where they're not there to succeed? This also affects the careers of all the players and everyone else supported by the team. These teams are big organizations. A coach is there to make sure the team's successful and to support the players, not to play diversity hiring games. Through expansions of the rule and other initiatives, the league and its teams have diversified assistant coaching ranks and top front office positions, including team presidents. It has been less successful when it comes to head coaches. The NFL began this season with just 6 minority head coaches among the 32, 3 of whom are black. Quote, "It's tough when something has been done a certain way for so long, and you're just trying to break down these barriers," said Trey Vincent, the NFL's executive vice president of football operations. He said the league's overall progress encouraged him, but referring to head coaches added, quote, "I still have to live in the reality of what the numbers actually say. And the numbers still are not where we would like them to be." Are you judging all these people based on performance? Because performance is really all that matters. It sounds like the only numbers they care about is what percentage of your coaches have a certain skin color. Still, the Rooney Rule has been the model across corporate America for companies that want to field more diverse slates of candidates, even as the aims of such initiatives are being fiercely debated in the public arena because they're illegal, most notably on college campuses. The recent resignation of Claudine Gay, a black woman, as the president of Harvard was celebrated by opponents of DEI initiatives and has fan disagreement about whether they are the best way to increase diversity or can instead be counterproductive. If you're ever putting people in a position that they're not qualified for, or if you're giving people additional points for things that don't relate to their actual merit for their ability to do a job or do a position, It's very destructive for the organization, and it's also personally destructive for that individual. If we don't make our own way based on our merit, we're going to fail in the future. It's absolutely guaranteed. It's cruel to exclude people that have the merit but don't have the certain skin color or gender that you want. And it's absolutely also cruel to give people an opportunity that they didn't earn just based on their skin color or their gender. Companies including Amazon and Facebook now have versions of the Rooney Rule for their boards of directors, and some shareholder advisors specifically look at initiatives when rating corporate diversity efforts. Like the NFL, many of these companies have seen diversity rise in some areas. Yet institutional inertia, a lack of tracking of diverse hiring, and little or no incentives have slowed their aims. It's really not about incentives, it's not about tracking. You either have qualified people or you don't. The coach is like a CEO. He's very important. You can't just hire people based on their skin color and say, well, maybe it'll work out. If I own part of that company, and it's worth $5 billion or more, I just want you to hire the guy that can actually do the job. Or a girl, who cares? Just be able to do the job. Companies just like NFL teams have also found ways to circumvent the policies. Quote, it's one thing for the CEO to go out and say, yes, we require a diverse slate, and then you don't ask any more questions, said Pamela McElvain, whose company, Diversity MBA Media, has been tracking the diversity and talent development efforts of Fortune 500 companies and other large organizations for 17 years. Quote, it all looks good, but you don't consistently see it showing up in those organizations because there's no incentives, there's no accountability, and there's no reason for anybody to make that next effort. Ms. McElvain's data, which hasn't been shared publicly before, encompasses both global and regional companies in more than 30 industries, including financial services, healthcare, and consumer products, with a total of around 40 million employees. In 2022, 85% of the 489 companies she surveyed said they required diverse candidate pools when interviewing for management vacancies, down from 95%, well, that's good news, 2 years earlier. So they're actually just looking for qualified people. Just 36% of those companies had some form of incentive or penalty connected to their policies, including performance reviews and bonuses. Other research showed a similar drop in corporate diversity efforts in 2022. Executives have been told at major companies, IBM is one of them, if they don't follow the diverse guidelines of hiring enough diverse people on a percentage basis, not on a qualification basis, then those people could be fired. They could lose their bonuses. They're certainly not going to be getting any promotions. Additionally, many executives are paid additional cash bonuses for meeting diversity targets, so they're being paid to discriminate against people. That's not American. That's anti-American. Companies that have tied incentives or penalties to spur the interviewing and development of workers from underrepresented groups have seen results. The results were particularly striking among senior leadership, which includes vice presidents and other roles that are the pipeline for future C-suite executives. Among companies with incentives or penalties tied to diverse slates, people of color and women hold more than 65% of those jobs, according to data from 2022. That compared with just over half at companies that said they used diverse slates but didn't hold hiring managers accountable, and only 39% among surveyed companies that didn't have a diverse slate requirement. According to her data, the share of companies that say they require diverse slates when hiring grew steadily from 62% in 2013 to 95% in 2020, the year when George Floyd died. The percentage slipped in 2022 amid a backlash by those who say efforts to increase diversity and equity are discriminatory and often do not result in hiring the best candidates. Well, of course that's true. If you add a new qualification, if you added a height qualification, or a weight qualification, or some sort of religious qualification, of course it's going to limit the pool of candidates you can hire. It doesn't work. In June, for instance, the Supreme Court struck down race-conscious college admissions. While the decision affects colleges and universities more than corporations so far, the ruling, along with pushback by conservatives who say diversity efforts exacerbate racial divisions and promote a liberal political agenda, has had a chilling effect. I can't even imagine how any of this can be in dispute. Valerie Rainford, the founder and chief executive of Ellery Talent Strategies, a firm that uses data analytics to boost equity at companies, said she had seen a decline in potential clients over the last year after a surge following George Floyd's death. Quote, people in this space will latch on to the latest shiny object that they think is moving the needle, but without looking at it in a deeper way that actually results in outcomes, said Mrs. Rainford. Until we do, I don't think we're going to see real progress. She has shared a similar message with clients who expressed skepticism about the Rooney Rule by citing the NFL's mixed results, telling them that such strategies require continuous effort and attention to work. The NFL's own efforts have shown that the Rooney Rule alone is not a panacea. The league enacted the rule only after the lawyers Cyrus Murray and Johnny Cochran Jr. threatened to sue the NFL for discriminating against black coaches. Results quickly followed, particularly because of the Steelers owner Dan Rooney championing the rule named after him. In 2007, two black coaches, Tony Dungy and Lovie Smith, faced off at the Super Bowl for the first time, and by 2011, a record 8 head coaches were people of color. In the 3 years after Mr. Rooney took leave from the league in 2009 to be the U.S. ambassador to Ireland, and black coaches expressed growing criticism that teams were circumventing the rule and not being penalized for it. Well, we didn't have that moral leadership from within, said Murray, who helped found the Fritz Pollard Alliance, a group that pushes for diversity in the league's executive and coaching ranks. The league has been sued for discrimination, including by Brian Flores, that's this guy, a coach of black and Honduran descent, who in February 2022 accused teams of conducting sham interviews to create the appearance of complying with the Rooney Rule. Similar complaints have been made about diversity efforts in the corporate world. Yet in the 20 years since the Rooney Rule was introduced, only one NFL team has been penalized for sidestepping it. By the time Mr. Murray and the Alliance met with the league in 2016, the NFL was considering how to strengthen the rule. Mr. Murray proposed requiring teams to interview at least 2 people of color for each position, something that research published that year in the Harvard Business Review showed significantly increased the odds that people of diverse backgrounds were hired. From the Harvard Business Review, if there's only one woman in your candidate pool, there's statistically no chance she'll be hired. Well, if she's qualified, that's great. If she's not qualified, we don't need her. During that meeting at NFL headquarters, the league's human resources director at the time suggested taking time to study the research before committing to it. Commissioner Roger Goodell interjected, saying, let's just do it. Even after Mr. Goodell pushed his executives, however, a mandate that 2 candidates of color must be interviewed for every head coaching vacancy wasn't adopted for more than 3 years. Since then, the league has extended the rule to include team presidents and the level below head coaches, coordinators, and to include women. It has also added incentives. Teams that develop minority head coaches or general managers who are hired away receive draft picks as compensation. At the league office, individual bonuses and performance reviews are tied to an execution of department's diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. The results are apparent in certain areas. 7 team presidents come from underrepresented groups, including 6 people of color, and 10 general managers are people of color, including Champ Kelly, the interim general manager of the Las Vegas Raiders. The overall representation of people of color and women at teams is 51%, up from 44% 3 years ago, according to the NFL. That includes the number of coaches of color, which grew to 43% from 35%. Quote, for equal opportunity to be achieved in an organization, everyone has to be rowing in the same direction, not just the CEO, but direct reports and middle management, Mr. Murray said. This kind of effort is so fragile and needs such constant commitment that if you take your eye off the ball, you'll drop the ball. It's a complete waste of time to discriminate against potential employees. 2024 is going to see more lawsuits challenging diversity, equity, and inclusion hiring practices that exclude people based on certain races, genders, and sexual preferences. There was a massive win at the Supreme Court over race considerations in accepting college applications. It should and will hit business this year, and hopefully we'll see more and more of this go away. All of these percentages, all of these agendas, all of these incentives, it's absolutely poisonous to the healthy operation of the business, the organization, and people's own personal careers. You have to make it based on merit. And if you don't have the merit to get the job, you shouldn't get the job. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.